and actually a lot in there to think about. Firstly, in terms of the type of plan, but also one of the challenges that we are wrestling with, which is how do plans that set long-term policies adapt to short-term trends and information. And in our search sometimes for certainty, which is obviously important to help people feel comfortable with the future of the place, how can we recognise that trends of human behaviour are going to be influenced by a huge range of factors that we simply cannot understand at this moment in time. And so me and my team starting to try and think about what does a flexible, rigid plan look like? How do we balance those kind of criteria? So thank you very much. The second speaker, Dame Fiona Reynolds. Hello. Hopefully another really interesting and thought-provoking discussion around the themes that Councillor Hayes of Lewis highlighted that we're trying to engage with in our issues and options around nature, biodiversity, breeding structure, and so on. Yeah,
thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for inviting me. My credentials probably aren't very clear from this slide. I am part of the manual, but before I came to Emma, I spent about 35 years working in the conservation movement, first for national parks and then for CPRE, and latterly at the National Trust, where I was Director General. So I have been engaged with these issues for a long time. But at the moment, as you well know, I'm here, and actually I get a lot of inspiration from nature. I get quite a lot of inspiration from my students as well, actually, too. But there is a sense in which, for me, being here is about having a lifestyle where I can connect. Every morning I go for a 2-hour walk up the Cam. I've just been actually to Grantchester and beyond this morning, because I need it. I need to connect with nature. And I think if we think about our own lives, this isn't just a sort of nice to have. I think this is absolutely essential to our well-being. And far too many people don't have access to nature. In fact, there's some very interesting work on deprivation of access to nature, which is being led with Natural England is supporting it, and the University of Derby, and particularly among poor communities, not just city-based communities. If you think about parts of Cambridgeshire, rural Cambridgeshire, children who've never been to the countryside, who have never had the experience, and actually a particular worry about adolescents among those communities, a real sense of mental health problems may well be linked to deprivation of access to nature. So I think I put this up to inspire you, but also because everybody needs it. But the challenges are immense, as we've already heard, and partly because Cambridge itself has really topped it, one might say, in terms of nature loss in the post-war period, particularly at farm intensification. So now, and the statistics are all there in all the data, throw statistics at you, but Cambridgeshire both has fewer nature reserves and less SSIs, and has lost more nature than many, many parts of the country. So we're in an incredibly vulnerable position here. Peat loss in particular, peat is probably the most valuable natural resource in the world. It's just that we don't know how to value it. And particularly lowland peat has been absolutely devastated by intensive farming, and to the point where many of the peat soils are actually exhausted. Water resources, we know, are under pressure. Development pressures, as we all know, are incredibly intense. And the point about development, once you've built in the wrong place, you have built in the wrong place forever. You know, this is not a reversible decision. And so a lot of the issues around car dependency and inefficiencies around transport and carbon are to do with having made bad decisions about where to put development. And as I said, people are deprived of access to nature. The point is we have a climate crisis and a biodiversity crisis. And although we're not nearly good enough on addressing carbon, and actually it's great to hear that the progress that's being made now here, taking it really seriously, but actually we're miles behind on biodiversity, we really are. And the risk is we go running ahead of carbon and forget about nature. We've got to bring them together. And so my challenge for today is that it's great to have a challenge of doubling nature, but from a very low base in Cambridge. That may not be good enough, actually, and I would really think about the planning. This isn't about nature with its own little places, this is about nature in and among every single thing that we do. So, you know, we have got a real problem here, but we've also got some great opportunities. And I mean, just to quote two of you, most of you will know them, the Wicken Fen and the Great Fen projects. And Wicken Fen, when I was Director General, we took on this ambition to multiply it over 20 times, it's making progress, it's not there, it should be connected with Cambridge, it should be a green corridor. The Great Fen project, which is a wonderful one, but it's not joined up with the Wickham Fen project, we've just got to think much bigger. And then an example of Nature Net Game, which is the Trumpington Meadows project associated with the development there, which is now one of the biggest nature reserves in this part of the country. And I was literally there this morning in the dark, actually, because I have to walk in the dark in winter, which is very sad for me, but nevertheless, I was there. And this sense of bringing something new and special. We've got to be able to create new spaces as well as protect. Particularly the Wickham Fen example, I like to quote, it was the nature reserve in a plastic bag, what the trust used to call it, because it had shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, and all the land around it had become more and more dry. And literally, the National Trust was propping it up. The swallowtail had gone, so many species had gone, and it's only now it can be big that it's starting to recover. And that is the point. We've got to think bigger, better, connected and joined up. We all know that from John Lawton's report, and if you haven't read it, it reads just as well today when it was published about 7 or 8 years ago. But Professor Bill Adams here in Cambridge, he's got this sentence in one of his books which read, the 20th century was a centre in which the conservation movement grew and nature shrank. And that's a really humbling position to be in, that we all have presided over this catastrophe of a decline in nature. So, but there's lots going on, and perhaps because Parliament's a bit distracted at the moment, and they're completely not on the case with this stuff, there's actually a lot of work going on. These are 4 reviews, which I'm personally on, and actually one of the small things I can do is help bring it up. So the Royal Society of Arts published in July, Food Farming in the Countryside report, which talks about agroecological farming everywhere. This is not just about in a few places, it's about everywhere. Farming that respects the environment, protects soils, and nurtures biodiversity. Healthy food for everyone. There's a food crisis beyond all measuring, particularly around health, and a countryside that works for all, which is about how to be thriving and sustainable in the countryside, built on local sustainable businesses based on sustainable use of natural resources. We just published last weekend the Glover Review of Protected Landscapes. Some of you may have seen the press publicity. That is saying, 24% of England is designated, sadly not in Cambridgeshire, mostly uplands and the southwest, but nevertheless, if that 24% was focused on nature recovery, inspiration for people, and again, great places to live and work, actually we'd be making real progress, but obviously that's just come out. I'm also on the Building Better, Building Beautifully Commission, and the whole idea there is actually, we're pretty poorly. I mean, we don't build sustainably, we don't build beautifully, we build in the wrong place, and actually we are trying, we're still mid-session, to put together recommendations, not only to build better quality and build more beautifully, but to make sure the future development is in the right place, with the right infrastructure, that it's not carbon dependent, so a carbon net zero ambition running through that. That's really hard, because as I just heard from Elizabeth, these are really big choices and decisions, but we've got to get them better than we have done. And finally, I've just been put on a Sept review, which is going to prepare a government position for the Treasury for input into the biodiversity and climate COPs next year. I think it's really interesting, because I'm not an economist, and I've been quite rude about economists in my time. But actually, Partha Dasgupta, who's chairing, said that's precisely why we want you, Fiona, because you'll keep saying what people need. You won't fall into this sort of magic trap of sort of economic determinism. And I said, well, too right, I won't. But I am going to be a nuisance, is what I said to them, and I mean it. We can, of course, must act locally too, and I mean, you will have all the ideas, but here are just a few of mine. And it's great to hear about the joint plan, which we've talked about, Stephen, and I think this is the moment where we've got to think big, but we've got to think integrated. So, let's have nature and beauty mattering as much as the economy. This is not a moment to say, no, ultimately, really it's growth we're after, and everything else will be helpful. This is a moment to say, no, we're serious about the long-term future. Nature and beauty, and obviously carbon, have to matter absolutely as much as all the other things we're trying to do. A plan for nature recovery across the country, the Green Infrastructure Review, we know where the opportunities are, but we're not doing it. And this is not about SSSIs and designations, this is about nature everywhere, and people's back gardens, right through to a complete vision for restoring the fens. Plan for people to have access to nature and green space. This is about big parks, big landscapes. Matthew told me that's in the sites now, so this is very exciting. redirect public resources, farm subsidies, preventive health investment. These are large amounts of money and they're not going to the benefit of nature at the moment. They are, in fact, they still are supporting very unsustainable activities. And health is too much focused on picking up the problems rather than investing in solutions, and that is a big turnaround. And actually, I want to corral all the business investment that's going on into nature, into the way that we think about these things. And the call for sites is one thing, but this is as much about thing. If you're a business operating in Cambridge or Cambridgeshire, you need, it's almost a moral question. You can't but be part of a big story about how your CSR investment, how you, the support you give your staff, all the different ways in which businesses make decisions should be corralled around enhancing nature. And finally, of course, totally integrated with plans for zero carbon and resource management. I really worry that they will be at the expense of nature, because we haven't quite worked out what the nature challenge is. But just remember that at the end of the day, people need beauty and need nature. And if they don't get it, we're depriving them of something absolutely fundamental. Thank you very much.